you love. Now, you've been doing that for years, what you love.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, and I've heard reports that 80% of people hate, not dislike, but hate their jobs.
Yeah.
80%.
I mean, I do understand that. I mean, obviously, in my earlier years, I was working, and when I decided to run the business, I actually wrote one of the exercises I take my clients through, which is an exercise I took myself through in those early days, was I had written down every job that I had, including volunteer work. I wrote down what my strengths were in every job and what my weaknesses were, what I was good at, not so good at. I wrote down what I loved to do and what I hated to do. Then what I did was I wrote down all the books that I loved to read. And when I went to a bookstore, or even when I picked up magazines, what were the types of books that I liked to read? What were the types of magazines that I was gravitated to, as well as the articles? And what I spent my money on. So I broke my life up basically in 5-year segments, from the age of, say, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25.
You started at 10 to 15?
Yeah, because I was focusing on what is it that I love to do. And in those early days, I loved sketching and artwork, which is now what I've pulled into my life. And really, as I started my business as a makeup artist, that was my old earlier skills and talents of being an artist. Was that formed at that early of an age.
And you're living your dream, though, aren't you?
I am. The other aspect is, what do people spend their money on? So when I was starting to earn money in 15 to 20, I started my first job when I was 17, and then age 20, 25, 25 to 30, etc. What I spent my money on was a good indicator of what was important to me, what I valued. So what I did was I took all my strengths and the things that I love to do, what I spent my money on, books and articles that I like to read, all my hobbies and interests. I wrote them down on one sheet of paper, and then I looked for a business or a job that encompassed all those things.
That is so important.
Yeah.
A snapshot.
At the same time, what I wrote down was all the things I didn't like, the things I hated to do. Those things were written on a separate sheet of paper. And it became clear to me that I loved working with people. In my very early days out of university, of course, I worked in a federal prison. I worked with male inmates out in Mission Institution, which was a medium security institution, inmates doing federal time. I loved working with people, but I wanted to make sure that people appreciated the effort and the interaction that they had with me, the relationship they had with me. Because there's nothing worse than being with somebody that has no respect or doesn't honor who you are as a person, or the time or the energy that they're putting into the relationship.
Yes.
So there was very specific things that were important to me. And then what I did was I designed a business around that. And initially I started as a makeup artist. I went from law enforcement, having worked in a prison, to an immigration investigator. And then from there, I started my business as a makeup artist, working with brides and painting on people's faces. Now, the business, as it was growing, I grew the business to be the most well-known makeup artist in Vancouver. But it wasn't enough for me, because when I realized that image affected people's image, I realized I wanted to do more with that. So hence the image consultant business evolved.
Right.
But then I realized it was just simply superficial. It was the dress and the wardrobe and the makeup and the physical grooming. I realized that a huge part and most of that aspect of image all centered around the mind and what was going on in the mind and how you manage emotions. So I started to go and do a lot of research and go inside and work on that aspect. Not only on me, because I'm working on me constantly, but it was something that I wanted to take my clients through as an experience. So the business has really moved away. I no longer do bridal makeup. It totally moved into a direction of working with individuals and with leaders that were working on really important things, that were building companies and big companies that really had a huge impact on changing the social structure and what was happening in communities. I wanted to be part of that.
You put the pieces of the puzzle together in such a creative way that you achieved perpetual happiness and curiosity at the same time. Let's face it. You know what I'm saying? You were curious enough to do research, and you turned that into your happiness. Am I right? Or am I?
Absolutely. I think you have to be, when you use the word curious, you have to be curious about life, curious about people, be interested in people, be interested in what's going on in people's lives, genuinely interested, with the intention of adding value and leaving the relationship better than what it was, rather than what you can get out of it or take from it.